This week's episode was brought to you by Ron. Thank you, Ron. It's with the generous support of listeners like you that keeps our daring bunch of rabbit raiders hopped up on enough carrot coffee to psychically anticipate the thoughts of the rainbow dragon, the one who lives in the spaces between the Earth's parallel dimensions, the one we entice to excrete diamond tears with a French tickler that Cthulhu once used to sweep countless civilizations into the abyss before he lost it on vacation in the black abode of whispered delusions while he was changing its batteries. Yes, we're still trying to figure out what the batteries are made of. If you'd like to help us anticipate the thought of the rainbow dragon, or just hear the second half of this episode, then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of at least $5 will earn you not just instant access to the entirety of this insane, uncensored episode, but full and instant access to our entire voluminous library of insane episodes, more than doubling the bingeable content that will probably last you long enough to make it through the next 2 catastrophe cycles. I hear the next 2 are closer together, to be fair. If that were not enough, I'll send you a 5x5 high-quality vinyl sticker of our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art at no additional cost, which the Illuminati hates because it's supposed to be a goat instead of a rabbit. You get it? Along with the secret keys to our Discord server, which is also being attacked by the Illuminati as we speak. We could use some backup. If you enjoy The Whole Rabbit but would rather save your money for a carton of butter lettuce, then please consider giving us a like, subscribe, or share on whatever social media platform you have a bazillion followers on. We promise to unsettle and confuse them deeply. In this week's episode, we put Tim Hacker on the stand again to continue the story of the black budget program intended to see through the curtain of time, Project Looking Glass, including its evolution through the 90s, the mysterious obstacle it encountered during 9/11, and how it concluded as the higher-ups glimpsed revelations around 2012 that were so frightening they couldn't even handle it. In the extended show, we discover how ancient history, left-hand path tantra via Kenneth Grant, and the Epstein files suggest that the elite have been tinkering with time travel and other bizarre, slightly icky ideas for a lot longer than any of us may have fully considered. Thank you, and enjoy the show. You know, I used to play around with time machines.
Yeah?
When I was older.
Oh,
I used to wonder, why can cutlery teleport, but not time travel?
Why?
Because it's silverware, not silver when.
There is no spin.
You know, I bought a secondhand time machine next Sunday.
mm-hmm.
They don't make them like they're going to anymore.
Oh my god.
I used to be addicted to time travel. It's all in the past now.
Are you sure about that?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just totally dismiss the existence of a long-rumored black-budget program capable of predicting the future using UFO parts and children who've been abused into being psychic just because a popular conspiracy podcaster who claims to communicate with the dead who travel through time using astral projection with an intimidating form of religiously motivated anti-Semitism talks about it on her show. Nay, we push Tim Hacker up to the sacrificial altar and coerce him to focus under extreme duress his genius towards writing most of the first and now second half of our twisting Jeffrey Epstein email, including investigation of none other than Project Looking Glass. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, also known as Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by our current rotation of active duty officers in the field. Machine Gun Mari Sama.
Ra-ta-ta-ta-ta.
The elegant dewdrop of the devil's glands, Hecka Astra.
Hello. I'll try not to dissociate.
The demure demiurge of the dark quatrain, Tim Hacker, the artificer of the Cryptic Chronicles podcast. CrypticChronicles.com.
Tim isn't here right now.
And the man who passed the McCarthy-style hazing ritual. Chills.
My Manchurian candidate trigger password is good morning.
What? That's the worst you could possibly come up with.
Yeah, no one says good morning anymore. Oh.
Yes, they do. You guys say it in chat all the
I say
time.
it all the time, every day.
Yeah, it's going off all the time. Yeah, I keep switching personalities.
Don't you have to say it out loud?
Our story of Project Looking Glass resumes with the claims of whistleblower Michael Harrington, an alleged former Army intelligence officer with 18 years of service who, one night in 2003, recorded his confession via camcorder in a cramped hotel room just outside of Rachel, Nevada. That is where our story resumes.
Act 4, September 2001.
According to Harrington's materials, a team of scientists and engineers had been successful in their experiments with Project Looking Glass. By 1999, the project had been going on for 8 years, hundreds of sessions, extensive protocols, and the team reaches a terrifying conclusion. The device works, but nobody could agree on what it's actually doing.
So then they split into two factions. Faction 1 believes the machine is perceiving branching timelines, a manifestation of the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. Every decision creates a branching of reality into parallel timelines.
Mari is really good at quantum mechanics.
I intuitively would probably fall into Faction 1. Just to throw it out there, I think I would innately tend towards Faction 1.
Explain yourself.
It sort of feels like time branches. It sort of feels like every possible existence already does exist, and we're just experiencing it like an arrow going through time down one branch, but all the branches exist. I would imagine if you were God or had a trippy experience, you could experience like all the branches all at once maybe, or a few branches at once, or go through a few branches and then come back down to one branch. I don't know.
I have my own theories, but we'll not get into them yet.
Like, there's one branch where this is the best podcast ever recorded ever, and we're trying to suck the energy out of that branch and suck it into our branch.
Or steer everything towards that branch.
Yes.
Well, some people say that Looking Glass, it allows operators to perceive these branches before they fully separate. In this view, the future isn't fixed. It's a garden of forking paths.
Like the possibilities. So, I mean, I would imagine these as like probability waves. So, like, the bigger the branch, the more likely to go towards it, then the more probable that that outcome will happen, right?
Okay, so that's Faction 1. What about Faction 2?
So Faction 2, on the other hand, had a much darker interpretation. They believed that the machine wasn't showing all possible timelines. They believe it only showed timelines that humanity was actively being steered towards. The various timelines that the device showed was a delusion. There was only one actual timeline, one future, and the appearance of multiple possibilities was an illusion created by incomplete information. In their view, free will is an illusion. The future is already written. Okay, well, I most definitely am Faction 1.
The scientists debated about this, and arguments were heated, philosophical, almost religious. Because what was at stake wasn't the interpretation of date, but the fundamental nature of reality and human agency. The two factions were not getting along.
I almost wonder if you could think of both as true at the same time.
I kind of know what you're talking about, and I kind of see that like as a possibility as well.
I mean, if there's multiple realities, obviously you're only going to experience one. So if you have two choices in one reality, you make the first choice, and one reality, you make the second. That's sort of like expressing free will in both directions, both choices. You just only get to pick one, the one you picked.
Well, that, and then remember last episode we were talking about eschatology and how, like, remember 2012, everything seemed to come to a point.
Yeah, like a convergence point.
There are convergence points, though, where things have to happen a specific way. But in between those points, there could be a variety of different paths that one could take to get to the next point. You see what I'm saying? So, like, it's almost like it's both true at the same time, like Luke was saying. That's what I think.
For me, it's a little bit confusing to describe it as like branching, because I've always envisioned it or experienced things as being like overlaid on top of each other. I kind of feel like it's the point making that like decides. So I can see where both factions would be coming from, and I think that neither of them is like 100% right in my personal opinion, but I don't know.
Yeah! Anyway, this is when Hal Putthof enters the story. So at this point, how Putthof has moved from working with Stanford Research Institute, where he was working on advanced physics concepts and zero-point energy, basically UFO stuff, which he still does work with to this day. So even back then, he maintained various security clearances, consulted for various classified programs, and ultimately was called upon as a resource for Project Looking Glass.
Back in 1999, he visited the Nevada facility. He spent 3 days reviewing the data of Project Looking Glass, observing sessions, and examining equipment. At the end, he delivers a warning that haunts the team.
Quote, "The problem isn't seeing the future. The problem is the observer effect," unquote.
This is like the double slit experiment. In quantum mechanics, the act of observation affects what's being observed. You can't measure a system without changing it, essentially. So were the timelines going to go the way that they go in the same manner as if the scientists never viewed them? Or did viewing them affect their trajectory or what was shown? If the future exists as a quantum probability field, then observing it just might collapse those probabilities in ways that couldn't be comprehended.
Bingo.
Putthof saw this and said they needed to be wary of causal loop. Seeing a future event and making choices on that specific observation may be what actually leads to a timeline coming into fruition that was observed.
Maybe he was reading classical literature, because is this not exactly how prophecy works in ancient Greek myth, right up into New Age manifestation lore? Heroes often meet their tragedy because they're trying to avoid it in the first place. Don't worry about the vase, Neo.
How did you know?
Oh, what's really going to bake your noodle later on is, would you still have broken it if I hadn't said anything?
And then, New Age manifestation tips often warn that whatever you feed attention to comes closer to manifesting, even if that thing is negative.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even like the power of positivity, or, staying away from a negative mindset, in some effect, you're collapsing probability to reward you in the future. Same thing goes with like magic, or like honing your intentions to something that you want in order to like change the probability wave to your benefit. This is also how like visualization techniques for manifestation work. I just see that the causal effect is happening a lot on different scales around us. But I think this machine is like if you take your own manifestation abilities, the machine would have like tens of thousands of more power behind it, I guess.
I have so much to say on this topic, but I genuinely think I'll just sound crazy, so I don't...
Say it!
I love this stuff.
If you're talking about manifestation, I think there's a difference as well between like it being your negativity being the pointedness that creates that reality. And there's a difference between that and noticing something that was already created as a manifestation by an external observation or pointedness. So like, let's say if someone was to curse someone and then noticing the curse after the curse is pointed in its placehood, in its manifestation. I think there's a difference between the two. But I also think that the positivity can still influence it because it's not set in stone. I don't even personally feel as though the past is set in stone. I personally think that time isn't linear and that all of these things are more like overlaid. That's why the branch theory doesn't work for how I understand.
How hermetic of you.
I just don't understand it to be branching like that. And it does make me sound crazy because I've had weird ass experiences that are really difficult to explain, but this is just how I understand it personally.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, actually. That doesn't sound crazy at all.
No, I agree too.
In a nutshell, it's like the difference between like just being kind of naive about it, and then on the other extreme being like, well, you're digging your own hole. So like there's more to it than just those two options. Like there are infinite options.
But like, take a classical example. It's been a while since I've been in high school, but I'm pretty sure that it's Oedipus's father who is told by an oracle, like, your kid's gonna kill you someday. And he's like, oh no, we gotta get rid of this kid. And then that ultimately results in Oedipus killing his father and boinking his mom, right? Just like the prophecy said. Like maybe it never would have happened if his dad hadn't taken preventative measures, right?
So like if there's like a negative pointedness and that's like pointing out, hey, this negative thing is going to happen in the future, and then the reactivity to that is a negative thing as well, then it's not changing the thing that's its original dedication because of the initial observation. Does that make sense? But that doesn't mean it can't be. So is it worthwhile to acknowledge what has already been observed and then influence that? Yeah. Luke is just looking at me like I'm f***ing crazy. I knew that would happen.
It's a trap!
Time's a flat circle. We're in a continuum that is constantly changing and replaying over and over and over.
Someone once told me time is a flat circle. Everything we've ever done or will do, we're gonna do over and over and over again.
Thank you. I genuinely think this is how the Mandela effect was made to happen.
Yeah.
Because also if you put enough pointedness on that and you bring it to light, but the vast majority dictates it, that observation dictates it, it can outweigh it. Does that make any sense?
Totally.
I see what you're saying, but I also believe that if you happen to switch timelines as you're going forward, then that doesn't necessarily mean you retain the same past.
Right.
Like,
but
you
also the past can also be changed and every timeline can still be swapped back out.
Both sides are malleable, not just because a lot of scientists think the past is set in stone, but I don't believe that either.
It's
No,
not.
it's not.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's malleable like the future is.
Yeah.
I think the past changes all the time.
Time itself is an illusion because there is no future, there is no past. There's only an ever-present consistent, which I know sounds kind of cringe. There's only the present moment.
So
But-
now,
No, that's what I'm saying too, is that like every single moment is a pointedness and that pointedness is decisive, but it doesn't have to be permanently decisive because it's all malleable.
I could go on and on about this.
I'm totally down for that whole conversation. I think what I'm getting at is sounds like Hal Putthof, either through Scientology or mad scientist math, figured out the technical explanation of why by trying to stop Siddhartha from becoming the Buddha. That's how he became the Buddha. And they're worried that they have overlooked, using Project Looking Glass, this property of reality, and they're steering themselves directly towards one outcome.
So
Yeah.
I haven't read through the show notes, but I suspect this is probably going to tie into what you guys will be talking about. I personally view all of this stuff that we're talking about as like kind of the same thing that happens with us mentally, is that pointedness, right? And the more open you are to not being held to the pointedness of the past, which has made the patterns of thought that you have in the current moment, the more that you go outside of that, the easier it is to be malleable and rewire yourself. This is proven in science and neuroscience. So I think that this is the exact same thing that we're talking about. Our mental realm functions on the same premise.
That's how you become an operating Thetan. That's why they do audits. That's why Hal Putthof understands time travel. Thank you, Hecka.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I think it ties into this topic because that malleability is probably what they look for in the people who are their subjects, right?
Which is why kids would make better subjects.
Yeah, because they don't have all that baggage. Like you just said, even if you have a troubled past that changes your behavior in the present situation, there is like hypnosis therapy, and you can actually go back and relive your memories and change your memory, and which in effect changes like your body in the present.
Memories are pretty incorrect and not accurate anyway.
That's true,
Yes.
but you can take a traumatic memory and change it now, and then like your trauma body response will stop happening like
Yeah.
that. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's also like you
Yeah.
facing it in a dream. You could do that too.
Right.
This ties in. This is part of what I'm talking about with like your mental realm functions in the same way, because every time that you access a memory, you rewrite the memory. So the more that you have to access the same memory over and over again, the further it goes away from the original thing that happened. You rewrite
Changes
it.
ever
You
so
rewrite
slightly.
it
Yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
Okay, so what have we learned so far? If you want to time travel and you were not born autistic and you did not go through the GATE program, you can still join the Church of Scientology.
That's
I
it.
mean,
That's it.
You can get that same kind of rewiring of your brain from doing actual shadow work. And I mean, being an observer without becoming the observed.
You mean Dianetics?
Sure.
Also mushrooms.
The cross was a mushroom, and the mushroom was also the tree of good and evil. The philosophical stone of the alchemists was LSD.
Also, the Gateway experience.
Well, I was just going to say what Luke was saying about Greek myth reminded me about how in Norse myth, the Norns, who were like the sisters that make fate, that choose everyone's lifeline, cut their threads, etc., there was this idea that your line, the length of your line was determined. Like you're going to die on this day, but the events on that day were up to you.
Oh.
So you might run away and slip on a banana peel because you're a coward, or you might go into battle and die a hero because you were brave. So it's kind of like the opposite or the inverse of the other way of looking at it.
It's a little different, isn't it?
I like that Mari brought up mushrooms because I shared a link a few days back, I think, in the Discord that had to do with mushrooms and how mushrooms rewire your brain. And this is actually a factual thing. This legitimately happens. So you can create new neural pathways with the use of psilocybin mushrooms. And you can use that for good, or you can use that for evil, or you can use it recreationally and not have any clue what pathways you're connecting, which may or may not be a good thing on its own as well. But I think just the fact that psilocybin mushrooms makes it so that you can repair or shut off, that's the other thing, shut off parts of your brain so that they don't get rewired or they stay unaffected. I think that makes it a pretty potent tool to use for something like MK Ultra.
In these flasks are all the holy mountains, and in this beautiful young man is eternity.
Or if you're trying to make, in this scenario, what is it, spaceship operators?
Just operators, people who are into, like, you know, what was it called? Cerebro from the X-Men that Professor X would plug himself into? It's like that.
Yes.
Guys, I think I'm fine as long as you don't talk about aliens.
Tell me what's next, alien sex.
Okay, cool. Chills, you know what else is really interesting is that this same thing that we're talking about here is totally like what the Horus Heresy is all based on from Warhammer 40K. Like Horus,
right.
yeah.
Magnus's vision.
Horus was shown a vision of this like horrible dystopia, and he was like, "Oh, I gotta stop this dystopia." But that
Magnus got the vision and brought it to Horus.
Was the future that was going to happen if he went traitor? So he made the future that he was shown that he wanted to avoid.
Oh, you're 100% right. I hadn't thought of that. Holy shit.
So according to Hal Putthof, that's how it works, and that's the problem with Project Looking Glass.
Yes, the Looking Glass could not have been predicting inevitability at all. It could have been creating it because it was viewed.
Yep.
And yeah, to search your brain, I understand. Don't worry, we've been talking about a bunch of crazy stuff. The implications are pretty horrific. But yeah, if Hal was right, then the more they used the machine, the more they eliminated other possibilities and timelines. Their viewing of the future events was steering the ship, not showing possibilities.
Stay puffed, Marshmallow Man.
And so I thought about this. Maybe this is why they need an anti-religious or an a-religious or even a satanic operator, because mainstream coded operators manifest whatever eschaton they've been raised into. You know what I mean? Like, if you put a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim in the chair, they're like, oh, I see the end of the world. And it's like, well, it's because you've been raised to believe in it.
Yeah, there's no malleability in its appointedness.
No, just what a wild thought. Holy shit.
I mean, it makes sense to me, but I also don't inherently just accept this as being like having a secular religion is wrong in any way.
When you're a character in this director's movie, you don't get to decide how this movie ends.
What Hal was saying was that they were not passive viewers of time. They were active participants in it, and they had no idea what they were actually creating. So it's weird how many philosophical and moral uncertainties they still continued with the experiments. The Department of Defense considered the intelligence value of the project far too high to allow any of them to call it quits. From their point of view, they saw a tool that could be a game changer in future conflicts, terrorist threats, geopolitical shifts, and damage caused by nature. To backtrack a little bit, in the summer of 2001, multiple sessions began producing similar images, but many operators independently described the same general elements: a city with massive buildings, smoke, fire, collapse. But the images were too vague to pin down. I'm sure you're getting where this is heading, right? But it was heading to the 9/11 attacks. They saw what brought down the Twin Towers. This shows the limitations of the machine in that so much was symbolic and vague. It was only after the event that the viewing made sense.
Spooky. And apparently, this made members of the team feel a bit guilty. A lot of them wanted to believe that such an event, had they seen it in the future, could have been prevented. Yet, what if the true issue wasn't their failure to stop it, but the act of observing it in the first place? Could their observation have collapsed the probability wave, thereby guaranteeing Dick Cheney's success?
What the
He knows what happened that day, let's put it that way.
Our enemies are innovative and resourceful, and so are we. They never stop thinking about new ways to harm our country and our people, and neither do we.
This was one of the turning points for the team, and Harrington says that they genuinely feared their own work after 9/11. Guilt and horror flooded them with the possibility that they were not intelligence gatherers, but the creators of catastrophe, even though unwittingly so. Putting myself in their shoes, I'd be pretty fucked up too.
I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories. This one comes up quite a bit. That 9/11 is this point in time that no one can mess with.
Like killing Hitler. Like, you can't go back in time and kill Hitler, or the time police will arrest you.
Is that one of them?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Okay, exactly like that.
Yeah, even Deadpool tried it.
But there's something far more disturbing in Harrington's notes concerning all this. The sessions they had with the machine before 9/11 were all showing the same stuff without any other possibilities. And this was the first time that happened to the team. Before this, there was like all kinds of different branching things that could go down. This was the first one where whatever they were being shown was shown as being inevitable, even if they tried many different operators. This was new.
Now, if this is not literally true, it's probably a mythologization of something that we've felt intuitively for a long time. Like 9/11 is one of the few times I've had a strong psychic premonition of disaster, and then disaster actually happened. And I've met artists who like drew it before it happened. I don't think they were secret agents. I think they were just tapped in. So I think there's some truth to this, that there are these big objects in time or in the astral that are just most likely going to manifest. And like, this is how artists work in the first place. Like, they kind of pull stuff out of the collective unconscious that's on its way into manifestation. At least that's my opinion.
I had zero premonition. In fact, I went to school and they said, no school today, we got attacked by terrorists. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm just going to go smoke some weed. But I didn't understand the extent of what happened.
I didn't have any premonition. I do know it was one of the events that kind of set me on the path of questioning our media, because I remember sitting in my office, I was called back from work out in the city in DC. We were all sitting around watching a TV with the news on, and I remember seeing news stories playing that I never saw again, like reporting on events that never came up again. The story changed, the official reporting of what happened changed, and it made me realize that stuff might happen and you never get that version of it again, like after
How
the day.
old are you? Because I was like 16 when this went down.
Yeah, I was 17 or 18. I was 18. I guess I'd be 18. Yeah.
Okay.
Tim, I was like 14 or 15, and I thought I was older than you.
I was born in 1985. My numbers might be a little bit off.
Oh,
I know I was in high school.
You are a year older than me.
I was definitely in high school.
So long story short, these Project Looking Glass operators, they realized they couldn't stop or redirect 9/11. It was something that was gonna happen.
It was as if reality itself had funneled down into a single point and nothing could prevent it. And the question that haunted the team afterward was simple and terrible.
Tell me what's next.
Why? Why did that event have no alternate timelines? And were there no other inevitable events that also all timelines converged into one outcome? They were about to find out.
I remember the random number generator experiments showed a big sync up between their supposed random numbers during 9/11.
I remember that too. Yeah.
And remember how the dude who owned the building worked every single day and never missed a shift or a day, but he missed that day.
It's a good thing he was double insured.
Oh, and also like all of the corruption and like debt and shit that was going on for what a lot of the wealthy people owed. Oh, those parts happened to be destroyed of the building. Oh, and also Donald Rumsfeld, the day before it happened, said that like $300 trillion was missing, that the Pentagon didn't know what happened to it.
Tim, if you keep talking, I'm going to have to pull it.
We did an entire episode about 9/11, didn't we?
And our algorithm has never recovered.
Oh, no.
I tend to think that if there are alternate timelines of that event, that it's like the exact same thing happened just through different means.
It's kind of like the Norn theory again, right? Like, like your date of death is set, but you can determine how it happens. Like maybe it wasn't terrorists flying planes, maybe it was an earthquake or whatever, but it was going to happen somehow.
Like who it was or where specifically on the building and like what led up to that. Like minor differences, but the outcome is the same.
Like if we had all just been on our positive thinking game that morning, it just would have been Donald Rumsfeld all by himself in a Cessna 150 like, God damn it! Somebody has to do it!
That's the best conspiracy theory ever.
And I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm not saying it wasn't terrorists. I'm not like doing that. I don't want the algorithm to destroy us. I'm just saying that there's some shit that does not add up that is kind of fishy. And everybody can agree on that, right?
Hey man, terror is terror no matter who's doing it. All right.
I am opposed to terrorism. Let me just...
Yes. Anyway, 9/11 comes and goes, and the deep state does a bunch of bullshit. Then swings around March 2003, and the U.S. rolls into Iraq. Everywhere you looked, you were plastered with propaganda about weapons of mass destruction. It was pounded into us day and night, but then those weapons never showed up.
They're still looking for them, Tim. We're going to find them. If you hadn't heard, the war's just turned a corner.
You know why they haven't found them? Because America.
You want to know why they know that they had them? Because America still had the receipts.
I said we found them. It's all that fentanyl in Canada.
Yep, nothing to see there.
According to insiders behind the scenes, everyone's scrambling because with the justification collapse, the pressure on intelligence went through the roof. And according to Harrington's leaked materials, that's when the Pentagon supposedly ramps up the looking glass work hard. They were striking the root, asking questions like, what happens if we occupy? How bad does the insurgency get? Stuff like that. Makes sense. So they run session after session, new operators, new targets, different approaches. They were trying to brute force clarity.
That really explains how the second Gulf War was run, as if they were looking into a crystal ball and couldn't figure out what the they were looking at.
I know we haven't finished the book yet, but it's called Ubik.
Yeah.
The way that they describe like the optional timelines for the future is very much like how I see things, where it's like sometimes something like glows a bit more brightly as like the most likely thing, and then they can put their intention into that thing or they can change it. Like that's kind of how it's described in that book.
Well, that's how it started, but then it slowly became more and more narrow.
So, like, if you were to visualize what happened with 9/11, it'd be like this one timeline glowed so brightly that you couldn't see any other different timelines, right? Was that similar for this?
No, it just was only one.
Like if you're playing Mass Effect and all the dialogue options are exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that Rick and Morty episode where Morty is like guessing what to do next based on the feedback he gets every second.
So what you're saying, Luke, is that it is very much like how I just described it, where it's like they only saw one way forward.
Yeah.
Like as they kept focusing and using the machine, it like narrows it down so much that you can only see like that one tiny thing that it's focused on. Like that's the only option at that point. Honestly, it's probably because they were using it so much.
There is a curse that goes alongside having foresight, especially if you don't understand how to work with it, right?
Yeah, this is why I don't believe in using like divination over and over again, because it stops working after a minute. Like, have you ever kept drawing tarot cards and eventually the cards are just like, stop it?
Dude, I got some dickhead cards today.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I've had that happen way back when I first started doing tarot.
The cards were like, stop f***ing trying so hard.
I'll tell you the same thing in like a more catty way, more and more.
Yeah, and then it just gives you noise, like after, like it just stops working altogether.
Try again later.
Yeah.
I said, Emperor, stupid head.
So the problems began with 9/11, but they don't end there. On the horizon is a much bigger problem.
Because something weird starts happening. Not kind of weird, unprecedented. The machine keeps spitting out the same result. The many different versions they were used to with symbolism was getting rarer and rarer, with the machine consistently pumping out the exact same imagery, symbols, and the same time markers. Like it was stuck on one channel, no matter how they rephrased the question. They kept getting the same message. Everything past 2012 collapses into one outcome.
It's the end of the world.
So they had the tarot card flip out, but with $1 billion UFO psychic machine. That's bad.
Yep.
Up close, the future still branches with different possibilities for the war, politics, instability, all that good stuff. But beyond a certain line, every branch merged, every timeline, every decision tree, every what if we did it differently, all of it funneled into the same destination. According to Harrington's journal entries, the team starts freaking out. They assume it's a malfunction, so they run diagnostics, drag in engineers, and check everything. And the system keeps coming back normal.
So just to make a comment here, for me, this is like the more energy you put into something, the stronger the effect. I sum it up with the whole energy goes where attention flows. So it's like once you start like dragging in engineers and like double checking everything, you're like putting so much attention into that, which is energy, and it just solidifies it.
Yeah, it's reinforcing it.
Can you imagine being the engineer for that? Hey, Dale, the time machine keeps spitting out the same result. Why don't you conjure up your little hammer and wrench device and get in there and fix it? You gotta fix time, Dale. If you don't fix the machine, we're all gonna end up in fucking Nintendogs land fucking buying digital cheeseburgers with Bitcoin. Get in there and fix it.
As Mari would call it, charging the sigil.
Oh, okay.
So this is Dale's fault, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
You're not gonna like what Dale recommends.
Well,
what is it?
Like, hey, now, why didn't everybody just forget about this stupid time machine shit? 'Cause that's the real solution.
If it wasn't Dale's fault, it became his fault.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely no one should do any podcasts about this so that we can all forget it happened.
Oh, no.
What you resist persists, and where thought flows, energy goes. Heck is correct. But this is the time where the real panic set in, because if the machine is functioning, then the convergence might be real. And among the scientists and whatnot, the arguments start. Some people think it's just the edge of the tech, like it can't see beyond a certain horizon or some shit. Others think it's the opposite, that the future actually locks into a single track after a certain point.
One physicist supposedly threw out a theory. Maybe the convergence is a critical event so massive it bulldozes every other possibility like a boulder in a river, forcing all water to go around it. But here's the nightmare part. They can sense the convergence and they can't see past it. It's like a wall in time. They had grown so used to being able to see so many branching possibilities that this sudden on-rails view threw a wrench into their gears, metaphorically. So what was it? A catastrophe? Nuclear war? Environmental disaster? The apocalypse? Economic explosion? Or something even stranger like first contact, a technological singularity, or some kind of civilization-level breakthrough? The scientists didn't know, and the uncertainty ate them alive. And this also kind of reminds me of the microwave background radiation. Like, if you're looking through a telescope, you can't see anything older than a certain time of the universe, and it acts like a wall. It doesn't mean nothing existed before that. It just means that we can't physically observe past that wall.
That's a good analogy.
It doesn't mean it's the end of the world or the end of the universe. It just means that there's like some kind of obstruction.
I like to think of it like that's the end of our peripheral vision, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you try looking further than what your peripheral vision can only do, you just reach the eyelid. You have to change your point where you are, your placehood where you are.
Nice analogy. Because it doesn't mean like that the person to the left side of me doesn't exist if I can't see them through my, head.
Right.
It's just I need to turn around.
Or just move the pointhood to somewhere else. Yeah.
Is there an even darker possibility, though?
Yes, the darkest possibility. What if it's not even an event? What if it's the point where human choice basically runs out, where momentum of everything we've ever chosen stacks up so heavy that only one outcome can happen? In that case, Looking Glass wouldn't be showing a future controlled by aliens or shadow governments. It would be showing a future controlled by us, the trap we're building with our own collective decisions. And we don't even realize that it is us who is laying the bricks.
By late 2003, the order came down from way up the ladder that Project Looking Glass has done. The team immediately starts tearing everything apart. Equipment pulled, rooms cleared, hard drives and records vacuum sealed into whatever black vault they use for stuff they never want any daylight touching ever again. Everyone on the team gets reassigned, and you already know the drill. Fresh NDAs, tighter than before, the kind that feels like less paperwork and more like a warning. A silent threat seems to hover above them ominously, but why?
According to Harrington, the official reason was simple. The project wasn't producing anything they could actually use. Too many sessions were messy, symbolic, open to interpretation, not reliable enough to bet operations on. And on top of that, expensive. Easy excuse.
I bet they just renamed it.
Yeah, and they got rid of the people who were there before. Correct. However, Harrington, among others, thought that was bullshit. Before the convergence was discovered, the higher-up brass were all about what they were doing. The real reason was their discovery of the merging timelines into a single singularity. That wall, that points where everything came together into one outcome, no matter the questions that they asked or what angles they tried. That's what scared these fuckers. If the destination was now locked, further work from them was pointless. What's the point of gathering intel, gaming scenarios, trying to steer outcomes, manipulating events, if every road still leads to the same outcome? Whatever the truth is, the team was having some real existential crisis issues. A few resigned outright. Some started whispering about what they did to the public. Most don't, though, because the classification level was insane, and the consequences were brutal. No slap on the wrist, decades in federal prison. If not life, or even worse, probably Hillary. Oh, I shouldn't say that.
I was thinking it.
Probably like self-deleted, if you know what I mean. Vanished without a trace.
Well, Harrington decided to go public. He felt that the people needed to know and learn what horrible fate might await us. So he started building what he called an insurance policy. He secretly copied everything that he could, took photos of the setup before it got dismantled, recorded conversations, and he set up a dead man's switch, the tape, the envelope, and a journalist contact in Los Angeles. Then, not long after the recorded confession, Harrington vanished.
Convenient. If you're one of the deep state handlers who needed him to shut the hell up about Looking Glass. Heartbreaking if you believe his tale. And take this conspiracy theory seriously. And absolutely terrifying for anyone still attached to that project, right? Because by the time he's gone, more people start to see shadows stalking them.
Yeah, don't work on one of these projects and then go on the Joe Rogan podcast all willy-nilly and talk about it with some guy with a funny beard.
Say the beginning again.
May I ask what year this was shut down, supposedly?
2003.
2003? So, I mean, maybe this is a bit far-fetched, but like, if you're going to try and correct a timeline issue that's this big, you would want to make sure that the person has practice in changing very decided timelines. And this might actually be, in my opinion, a reason for Mandela effect, because you have to fuck with something pretty benign first.
That's actually years and years ago, I had heard a theory that the Mandela effect was a consequence of some sort of time control device, time control tech that either went wrong or it's just a byproduct. So I've heard that myself, yeah.
I wouldn't even necessarily think of it so much as like, oh, it's obvious because it's something that went wrong. I genuinely think that if you're going to be messing with timelines, you're probably going to want to make sure that the person has experience in it first. So, you know, especially if it's something of this level of importance.
That's just the theory that I was told, but I think your idea probably actually makes more sense, yeah.
I always like to bring up how it works in the pen and paper role-playing system GURPS. Basically, all the timelines are stacked on top of each other, and if you just move a little bit, you'll move to a timeline that only has a little bit of variance in it. So according to that system, we would have been born on a timeline where Berenstain Bears was spelled with an E-I-N, Scary Movie, the line was, I see white people, Jaws' girlfriend had braces, etc. And somehow, big swaths of us got moved into a timeline where it was always spelled Berenstain Bears with an A-I-N. You know what I mean? That's, according to GURPS, what happened. I don't know what happened, but that's how I think of it.
Small shifts can happen, for sure.
I just think it makes sense, like, if you're going to have a newbie doing it, especially if you're, like, training kids to do it, that you want them to practice a bit before doing something that's going to have a really bad effect.
You didn't read the script, but you saw Stranger Things, and you're giving away the end. No, you're not actually giving away the ending, but yeah, that's...
Wouldn't that have been better?
Okay.
Yes.
When are we going to talk about the Epstein-Trump timeline war?
Okay, listen. We actually have talked about the Trump timeline war 3 or 4 different times on this show. But, you know, I'll be honest, it's in this episode, but the thread leads somewhere that I'm not even sure yet. I hope that makes sense.
Yes,
I hope
and
that makes sense.
you might have mental illness after listening to this, too.
Yeah, actually you might. You might actually get aliphrenia from listening to the show.
It's still being unraveled, too, right? So
This episode might retrocausally give you mental illness.
we apologize in advance for the past.
I'm not sorry.
Act 5, the journalist, Erin Malone.
So this is the lady who breaks the story.
Erin Malone was an investigative reporter at the Los Angeles Times. At this point in the story, when she walks into the Looking Glass conspiracy, she's 34, hungry for career advancement, sharp, and she's got a reputation as someone who doesn't back down.
She looks like the reporter in Ninja Turtles.
April
O'Neil.
She was all business, the type who got stuff done, and at this point, had already taken on really high-profile cases like police corruption, corporate scams, and environmental violations. The kind of reporting that gets people fired and companies sued. She had a lot of enemies in high places, if you know what I mean. And then, in spring 2004, a strange package showed up on her desk. No return address, postmarked out of Nevada.
Inside the package was a weird little conspiracy theorist kit, a high-8 videotape, a thick stack of handwritten pages, photos of some unfamiliar equipment, and documents that look classified, chewed up with black lines of redactions.
Black bars everywhere, just like the Epstein files. First thing she did was watch the tape. It is Michael Harrington's confession. 20 minutes of him claiming the most batshit crazy conspiracy stuff she'd never heard that sounded straight out of a sci-fi movie.
We read part of the transcript last episode.
Her first reaction is exactly what you'd expect from a serious journalist. But out of sheer curiosity, she looked into a couple things, and she discovered a problem. Some of her fact-checking adds up. Michael Harrington is a real person, Army intelligence, serving a record that she could look at herself. But not only was he real, but he'd also been missing since March 2003, right around the same time that shit started going sideways, if you remember from the last episode. She checked into more. Project Stargate, also real, declassified back in the mid-90s.
She was surprised to find out that the CIA really did spend years messing around with psychic research. She even checked in on the name drops, discovering that there were real people too. Hal Putthof, Edgar Mitchell, Swan, all real people working for the CIA, and also oddly Scientologists, which is kind of weird.
Why are there so many Scientologists in this shit, dude? What the f***?
Do you want the long or the short answer, Tim?
Malleability.
Simple.
Okay, it's because Scientology takes the ancient secrets, which are universal, that L. Ron Hubbard stole from Thelema and Jack Parsons, and rebranded them into a science fiction motif that fits into a financial pyramid scheme. But the underlying wisdom is true. So instead of discovering that you're made of angels or demons or spirits or whatever, you are made of a bunch of disembodied aliens that were thrown into a volcano. And instead of binding all the spirits to the Bodhidharma or to Jesus Christ, you are, I don't know, becoming aware of them hard enough to bind them into one unified operating system, which they call an operating phaeton, of which I believe 8 is the highest level. There's probably a secret 9th level if Grand Theft Auto is correct, which it always is, and that's about what I know. So it's real enough to work, but it's also a pyramid scheme intended to take every material thing that you own.
I am actually the product of the blood of Kingu, the great demon king that served Tiamat in the war against the gods that Marduk slayed.
You don't believe me, do you?
No, I know that I am the god of a demon king.
That is a very old myth, and it is a shared motif amongst other similar myths, so you may be correct, Tim. But there is a reason why Scientologists can remote view, or at least the high level ones, and it's because their technology really does work. It's just gonna cost you a financial arm and a leg, and it's a little cringe on the way there. And also, you do get to hang out with Beck, from what I understand. You learn to fly Tomcat.
I think it's important that you also kind of have to give up a certain amount of personal agency and do what you're told.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's recorded that he was good friends with Jack Parsons, that he ripped him off, basically. And Jack Parsons was the head of the American OTO at that time. Is that?
L. Ron Hubbard stole all the secrets from Aleister Crowley, turned it science fiction, and did everything that Aleister Crowley never could. That's the answer, Tim. That's why there's so many high-level Scientologists that ended up involved with these black budget programs, because they taught them how to be psychic by stealing their money.
I mean, if it costs money, then it must work.
I would think that the greatest difference between Scientology being useful for this and Thelema not being useful for this would be the personal agency or the lack thereof.
That's a good point. Yeah, because Thelema basically encourages your personal will and independence, whereas Scientology definitely does not encourage you to leave or disobey.
Yeah, it's more like a mainstream religion.
It's a little harsher.
It's a cult, dude.
Yeah, well.
So I'm curious, you have more to say about this one reporter chick, right?
Even though she was going over all this stuff and the claims sounded insane, you know, the support beams of the story were actually there as documented facts. So Erin did what Erin does. She dug deeper. And for 6 months, she chased the story like a bloodhound and tracked down former Stargate collaborators. Most slammed the door in her face. Some talk off record. A couple basically admit, yeah, there were experiments that pushed into weird territory, but they also say nothing ever became reliable, you know, like enough to hang a whole program on. And nobody will confirm the actual Looking Glass device itself.
Yeah, eventually she files an FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, and gets the classic response of pages and pages of redacted black bars with nothing proving to be useful to her investigation. The Department of Defense refuses to comment because, of course they do.
Dicks.
The fact that they sent something back to her, though, I mean, that proves something exists on the topic, so...
Eventually, she turns in what she has accumulated to her editor, who immediately kills the story, saying it's too explosive, and the documents can't be clearly verified. Nobody will go on record, and the core claim, the machine itself, can't be proven. The editor didn't want to publish fake stuff and get humiliated and branded as conspiracy peddlers. Of course, she argues her case, but it gets her nowhere. So she makes a choice that tells you exactly who she really is. And I respect the balls on this woman, like metaphorical balls. 2 weeks later, she leaves the Los Angeles Times, cashes out her retirement, and decides that she's going to chase the story on her own, without a leash. Erin Malone becomes obsessed on the Project Looking Glass story. Like unhealthy, can't sleep obsessed. She starts pulling on every thread she can find, building timelines, tracking names, mapping connections, trying to see if any of this actually lines up in the real world. And after a while, something starts to click. Because look at the timing. CERN.
No!
The Large Hadron Collider fired up in 2008. Humanity literally poking at the fabric of reality, probing the structure structure of space-time.
I'ma disrobe you, then I'ma probe you.
And in the same orbit, she's finding mentions of entanglement, retrocausality, weird physics where cause and effect don't always behave the way that we think they do. Then, right around the same era, the surveillance state ramps up hard. The NSA expands programs like Stellar Wind. And Aaron starts thinking, if you could see what's coming, wouldn't you want total awareness in the present? Not just to watch, but to steer. Then, the 2008 financial crash hit, and economists called it almost inevitable. And Aaron's sitting there like,
inevitable.
That word matters. Because in the Looking Glass framework, that's convergence. Timelines narrowing, possibilities collapsing, even becoming unavoidable. Then, 2013 rolls around, and Snowden drops the bomb, mass surveillance. And Aaron doesn't just see spying, she sees infrastructure, systems built to track communications, money, travel, and relationships. Your entire life is reduced to a moving map, and people are complaining about Discord making you have your ID on their platform. But you know what? The government knows what you pooped 13 Thursdays ago. However, then predictive policing shows up. Algorithms claiming they can predict crime before it happens. And Aaron's like, this is the same idea. Not psychic prediction, but algorithmic prediction. Chasing the same outcome. Control the future by controlling probability. Around the same time, DARPA money starts flooding into quantum computing. Publicly, it's research, innovation. But Aaron's thinking, yeah, okay. Now imagine what the classified budgets look like. Over the years, she tracks down 3 former contractors, 3 people who all worked close enough to the edges to feel the real heat, but not close enough to hold a smoking gun. None of them will confirm Looking Glass directly. Of course they won't, because they'd be dead. But what's crazy is, they all describe the same philosophy. They tell her the future isn't predicted anymore. It's managed.
What? This is starting to make sense why we're seeing the emerging surveillance state crop up so quickly. They have so much to manage.
One retired engineer from Sandia tells her over drinks, quiet, almost like he regrets even saying it, we're past trying to see the future. We're trying to create it. And that's where everything clicks into place for her. Surveillance, data collection, predictive algorithms, behavioral modeling, social graphs, financial tracking, travel patterns. It's not just monitoring. It's an architecture designed to eliminate uncertainty, to collapse the future into smaller sets of outcomes, to engineer convergence. So maybe Looking Glass didn't get shut down because it didn't work. Maybe it got shut down because it actually became obsolete. Because they found something better than a machine. They discovered a system that builds it. And in late 2017, something shifts.
The CIA quietly dumps this huge batch of declassified material into the CREST database, millions of pages. And on the surface, it's mostly boring. Bureaucracy, old memos, paper trails that go nowhere.
But Erin Malone does what obsessed people do. She starts combing, line by line, keyword by keyword, looking for anything that doesn't belong. And buried in the noise, she finds it. A partially redacted reference to something called QGS. Quantum Guidance System, Nevada Test Range, dated 1998.
I hope she had Control F for that. That's how you find stuff, right? That would suck without that. Now, the document is only 3 pages and most of it is blacked out, classic. But what's left on the page is the part that matters because the surviving details describe equipment that lines up way too closely with what Harrington was talking about. Laser interferometry, quantum coherence fields, a shielded chamber, and an interface designed for a trained operator. So the name is different. QGS, not Looking Glass. But the bones of it are the same. Same anatomy. And no, it's not proof of every insane claim that's attached to this story. It's not proof of timeline wars or destiny maps or anything like that. But it is proof of something important. Harrington didn't just pull this out of thin air. Something in that world existed. Something close enough to match the blueprint.
So Malone files new FOIA requests, this time referencing QGS directly. And what does she get back? The same old non-answers. The same,
we can neither confirm nor deny.
But here's the difference now. It's not just chasing rumors anymore. Now she knows she's brushing up against something real. In 2019, the Pentagon rolls out something called Joint Artificial Intelligence Center. Publicly, it's framed like the boring version.
We're coordinating military AI programs, streamlining initiatives, modernizing the force.
That's the press release version. But Malone's anonymous sources, people who swear they've seen things close to the edge, say there's another layer to it.
So they claim this AI hub isn't just building new tools. It's being fed old data, legacy program data, data, historical material from projects that were never supposed to exist in the first place. And yeah, possibly even looking glass session logs. Because think about it, if you've had years of viewing data, hits, misses, patterns, anomalies, whether it had worked perfectly or not, that's still a data set. And what do you do with a data set?
You train systems on it. You let neural networks chew through it and look for correlations the human mind might miss. So Malone starts asking the terrifying question, what if the plan was never just psychic prediction? What if the plan became consciousness research merged with algorithmic analysis? Sounds like what's going on now in modern times.
Minority Report.
Not a machine that needs a gifted operator, but a system that learns on its own, a system that scales.
Then in 2020, the US Space Force becomes official. Again, publicly, it's simple. Spin awareness, tracking satellites, monitoring debris, keeping eyes on orbital threats. But Malone starts digging into military journals and defense talk, and she keeps running into the same language. Quantum sensing, advanced detection systems, and a phrase that makes her heart stop cold. Temporal anomaly detection. Now, that could mean a lot of things. It could be theoretical, and it could be hype. It could be nothing. But in the Looking Glass framework, that's not nothing, that's a breadcrumb. And then, this is where it gets darker.
She starts receiving encrypted messages from a new source, a new voice, something claiming they have current knowledge of classified programs. And what they tell her straight up, chilling. They say the device was reactivated, not the original hardware, something newer, next generation, built with 2 decades of quantum computing advances that didn't exist back in the 90s. And they claim it's housed in a new underground facility. But here's the part that messes with her the most. The new system isn't showing branching futures anymore. Every session comes back with the same result. Not multiple possibilities, not forks, not probability clouds, just one timeline, one outcome, and nothing past a certain point. Like there's a wall in time, and the convergence hasn't changed. If anything, according to this source, it's clearer now, more defined, closer. So Malone's sitting with that, and the implication is brutal. Whatever it is, we're not moving away from it, we're moving toward it. And if any of this is real, then the scariest part isn't that someone can see the future, it's that the future might already be locked, and we're just counting down to the moment that we finally meet it.
Erin Malone chased this for 17 years. Boxes of documentation, dozens of interviews, exhausted, nearly broke. She decided on one final attempt. Find someone from the original team willing to talk on the record. After 6 months, she locates Charles Dunning, a retired engineer from Sandia National Laboratories, 78, living in Tucson, Arizona. He worked on quantum computing components in the early 90s. He agrees to meet, not because he's afraid, but because he's dying. Pancreatic cancer, 6 months, maybe less.
They sit in his backyard at sunset, recorder running, and Dunning tells her everything.
Yes, the machine was real. Yes, at least in the sense that it produced results significantly above chance. Yes, the convergence was real. Timelines narrowing past 2012 into a single outcome. But here's what the team eventually realized, what they could never prove but came to believe through years of observation. The device didn't show the actual future. It showed what the collective human unconscious expected the future to be.
No!
Oh, so cool. We're becoming bug people.
No, I'm a crab people.
But you know how people are saying like time feels different now, or like it doesn't feel like past eras, it has nothing to do with technology or anything? I feel probably why.
So for me, after 2012, something definitely shifted that I very much felt. Like I might have not felt a premonition like Rabbit King for 9/11, 2001, but 2012, something happened that changed everything. And like the world just didn't seem the same anymore.
Right. I felt that too.
Yeah. In fact, I was just talking with I didn't put it together with the year 2012, but I was just talking to someone the other day about how I had a very strong feeling on a particular day around that time that like time was odd that I'd never felt before, and that like time had felt like I could just walk through a door and wind up in a different time, like different timeline. And it was around that period,
shifted.
around 2012. Yeah.
And I remember talking to like all my friends and stuff, and everyone was confirming the same feeling. It was really weird. And it's happened
I never
a few
thought of
times.
it in terms of 2012 until just now, but that's true. Holy shit.
I mean, there was one point in time that I had a moment, I think I was on the phone at the time with Luke. This is probably like 4 years ago now. And it was like a profound horror, and I could not stop feeling it. And it was like a very universal, like, this is not just me feeling. And I definitely think that this is like a multi-stage, multi-plateau, like a narrowing. And I think probably a lot of Americans felt the 2012 one pretty profoundly compared to other people in other parts of the world.
Like in China?
Yeah, like, I mean, you know, being in Canada, it wasn't as profound during that particular time for me. We still had like a lot of things happen as a result of it. it, we're kind of like tied at the hip, you know, at least at that time we were. But the trauma part of it was like not quite the same. And the cultural impact is probably not as connected. So I don't think Canadians would have felt it as profoundly, I guess.
Yeah, we're closer to the Mayan pyramids, so that's why.
What about a loss of innocence? Did anybody else feel like a loss of innocence? Like maybe colors weren't as bright?
That, and if you notice too, you know how like when we were younger, you could look back and be like, oh, the 70s had disco and hippies, and the 80s had like, you know, fast cars and businessmen and stuff. Like every decade had a flavor. After the 2000s, they're like the decades we're having now have no like particular flavor or culture to them. It's really weird.
Yeah, it's like you look in the windows of stores and the sunglasses still look like the same as they did in the 90s.
Or if there is it's just a fad. It's no longer like a decade defining trend. It's basically like, oh, remember that in the 90s? Like it's a reference to some other time, like timescape. It's never something inherently original that arises out of our culture anymore. It's always just rehashed and recycled.
I actually did just have that the other day where I looked at a row of sunglasses in 7-Eleven. I was like, these are Sugar Ray sunglasses. Does anyone even remember Sugar Ray? Nothing has changed.
I wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend.
Yeah.
Wait,
that's not Sugar Ray.
That's Third Eye Blind.
Yeah.
Whoops.
What is it? What difference?
I remember Sugar Ray, yes. I Just Want to Fly guy.
R. Kelly?
No.
I just want to be.
I'm pretty sure Sugar Ray's the one with the, you know, with their halo hanging from the corner of my bed thing.
Yeah.
That's
every morning.
What's the one, Heart in a Blender?
That's Third Eye Blind, I think.
Yes, I think so.
They're the best.
They're pretty good. That was a good album. Yeah.
I think the point that was being made, though, is that it's kind of like if you were to envision it like all these timelines like laid over each other, it's like a squeezing of them together, right? That gives kind of like a funneling effect if you were to like zoom out and think of it like, you know, a tunnel. It like funnels and into this.
Reduces the quality? Because if everything joins into one thing, does it like reduce the authenticity or purity of something? Like for me, it felt like colors weren't as bright anymore. Stuff didn't taste as good anymore. A lot of stuff just was as enjoyable or pure as it used to be. Maybe I was naive because I was young, but maybe with all of the timelines merging together, could that reduce the quality of the timeline?
Yeah, maybe it caused a lack of contrast or interference or snow or a lack of continuity
or novelty.
Yeah.
So like, you know how when things are cold, they're like closer together, and you heat it up, they like kind of get further apart. And it kind of feels like that to me. Like if it's all getting squeezed together, it's all like getting closer. And you think of that from like an emotional context, how that has an impact on how we receive that, like how it affects us as, you know, emotional and mental beings. That kind of coldness or like unsettlement feeling probably is related to that.
Locked into boxes, can't make meaningful choices.
But this convergence isn't necessarily bad. Like there's bad ways to look at it. Maybe we're all headed towards a cataclysm, whatever. There's also good things that we'll get to. So it's not all just mental illness here. Dunning explains.
Quantum mechanics tells us observation collapses possibility into reality. But what if collective human consciousness, billions of minds, all expecting certain outcomes, functions as an ongoing observation? What if our expectations, fears, and assumptions constrain what futures are possible? Looking Glass didn't break physics. It tapped into something real, a field of consciousness, influence, and probability at the quantum level. But what it showed wasn't destiny.
It was a collective expectation. And as global fear increased, division deepened, as it is now, and people become more and more certain catastrophe was inevitable. Branching timelines collapsed, not because the future was predetermined by an external force, but because humanity mentally locked itself into expecting only one outcome. The device mirrored humanity's mindset. Horrifying. And when we believe in multiple futures, it showed multiple futures. When we stopped believing in alternatives, when we became convinced that only one dark future awaited, that's all that it could show. Buck. Dunning looked at Malone with tears in his eyes. Quote, "We didn't break time. We broke our ability to imagine alternatives." End quote. The convergence point isn't an event. It's a mindset. And if you think about Carl Jung and the unconscious, holy crap, all this is adding up, right? It's the moment when enough of humanity stops believing change is possible, stops believing different choices lead to different outcomes, stops believing the future is something we create rather than something that happens to us. Once collective will collapses into resignation, the future becomes fixed, not because of physics, but because of psychology. Malone asks what she should do with this. How does she tell people they have more power than they realize? realize, well, haven't the saints and the prophets and the spiritualists been doing this forever? Well, how can she tell them that the future isn't fixed, that consciousness matters? Dunning shrugged. Quote,
Tell them the truth. You hope it reaches someone who can still hear it.
And if you'd like to hear the dark truth, how this seemingly pleasant story intersects with the incredibly unpleasant world of the Epstein files, and also just ancient history, thanks to some historical analysis by Chills, we're going to talk about some black magic, aren't we?
all right, so the prerequisite for the continued show, you got to have your tinfoil hat. We sell those for only $500,000 million a piece. I'm the keeper of those funds.
Yeah.
I will take your credit card right away. Thank you.
You have to have a tinfoil hat, or you have to play Arc Raiders with us. But it's going to be harrowing. You're not going to like it. It's going to be dark. We made you listen to an extra long first half just to scare you away from the second half, so.
I'm going to start looking into tinfoil stocks.
You should. So if you'd like to hear this second half, which is totally crazy, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you the second half of this episode, you'll get every single one of our episodes. I'll send you a 5x5 high quality vinyl sticker of our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art, which is what the Illuminati worship, apparently, right?
That's what I heard.
That's what we heard.
That's what they're saying on TV.
So it's an inside joke, right? I guess. I don't know. We're actually in the
I
Illuminati.
like TV.
Get on board now.
TV good.
The train, doot. Train's leaving the station. Thank you, everybody. Eat carrots, shoot lasers.
Doot doot.
Dude.
Pew pew.